I'm Jarrad Brown, Australian expat financial planner based here in Singapore. Welcome to my video series where we tackle the tough personal finance questions asked by Australian expats. Today I'm going to share with you my 10 top tips to financially prepare to start a family. Now, raising kids in Singapore for Australian expats can be an incredibly different experience to back home in Australia. For one, many Australian expat families will have full-time live-in helpers, which means they're there to drop the kids off, pick them up from school, take them to sport, all of the other often travel commitments and everyday commitments that parents have to go through. What this also means is that both parents can often continue full-time in the workplace. Now, it's also important to recognise that the average child, and now we're talking averages here, will cost $250,000 before they reach college. But for Australians and Australian expats, that's often far closer to $1 million. So let's get into my 10 top tips to financially prepare for what's to come. First and foremost, the number one tip is to review your health insurance policy. Now, particularly if you're looking for maternity cover. Often health insurance plans will have a 10 or 12-month waiting period before you can make a claim. So what this means in effect for many health insurers is that you're paying for the first 2 years to utilise the benefits of your health insurance plan for maternity cover. You also may want to cover whether it will actually provide cover for your child when they're born. Now, if you already have a family, if you already have a young child or children, then be sure to review your health insurance and make sure it covers what you want. The second tip is to review your personal insurances. Now, here I'm talking about life, disability, income protection, and trauma cover. If you already have cover in place, you may find that you now want to boost it if you have a child or children on the way. Are you going to provide for their education costs? Are you going to provide for university or college? There are a whole raft of new things that we need to start thinking about if we have children on the way or if we're thinking about starting a family. The third top tip for financial preparation to start a family is save, save, save. Kids are expensive. Now, we all should have an emergency fund in place, which often should cover about 3 months of our living costs held in cash in the bank. Now, if we have children, I would often recommend bumping this up to between 4 and 6 months because we never know when unexpected costs may arise. The fourth tip is to review your employee benefits. How much maternity cover, how much paternity cover, how are you going to actually map out the birth of your child? Who's going to take time off work? How much time off work? What is the income? What is the household cash flow situation going to look like? Now, benefits, particularly in the land of expats, can vary wildly. We've seen cases where fathers have been given 1 day paternity leave up to many months. So be sure to review your benefits and make sure there's as few surprises when your little one is born as possible. The fifth, and arguably the least exciting tip, is to create a budget. If you don't already have one, it's time to start. Kids are expensive and it can be very easy to overspend, particularly if you're losing sleep, you're a bit stressed, you're busier, you're finding you have less free time. At least if you've mapped it all out ahead of time, again, you can avoid as much surprise as possible and at least reduce some of the stress when your little one arrives. The sixth top tip is temporary and permanent guardianship. So these are the people that would look after your child or children in the event of your passing. Now, you do need to be mindful of who you select, and often for Australian expats, our permanent guardians may not be in the country with us. So often we'll have a temporary guardianship nomination, which will be the people or person who would look after the children while waiting on the permanent guardian to arrive. Now, given the significance of these documents and arrangements, often a good idea to seek sound legal advice and make sure that you're making the right decisions and putting the right documentation in place. The 7th top tip is to review your superannuation strategy. Now this is particularly important for Australians back home, but even for Australian expats to start reviewing your retirement savings. If either parent is going to take a significant amount of time out of the workplace, and particularly if that's going to be unpaid leave, then it's important to consider how you're going to manage your retirement savings throughout that period. Are you going to top up prior? Are you going to top up after? Have you factored in that reduced income? What is the overall plan going to look like? So start thinking through these things, particularly before the little one arrives if possible, and make sure that your retirement plan is not impacted negatively. Now my 8th top tip for you today is to review the family's finances. Now by this I'm referring specifically to bank accounts. Is it time to start merging some accounts? Is it time to create a joint savings account? Now this can be particularly important if one partner is going to take unpaid leave, or even if they're just going to face reduced income. How are the costs going to be covered? How are savings going to be met? How are everyday expenses going to be covered in your household? So start thinking through these things. Start thinking about whether you're going to maintain some autonomy and have individual and joint accounts, or just joint accounts. Again, there's no one size fits all when it comes to banking, but it's important to have the discussions and think these things through in advance. Now my second last top tip for today is to check out the expat forums online. The Australian expat community is a very tight-knit one in Singapore, you'll often find, and what that means is that you'll often be able to pick up some great deals online for baby gear. Cots, prams, whatever else you may need, you'll often find that you can pick these up secondhand for discounted prices. My final tip for today is to relax and rest assured that your finances are in order and enjoy the journey. As somebody who doesn't yet have children, I've been told that having children is one of the most rewarding experiences that anyone can go through. Now, if you've done your homework, if you're prepared in advance and know that your finances are looked after, that's one less stress that you'll have to deal with in future. So relax and enjoy the journey. I hope you found these 10 tips helpful. I hope there's been something of benefit for you. Thank you very much for joining us. If you have anything to add or you have any questions that we haven't yet covered, fire them through. We'd love to hear from you, and maybe we can even turn them into a future video. Thank you again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time.